What Jews believe is often embodied in how they think about and celebrate the Jewish holidays. Well, this week, Jews around the world celebrate the holiday of Tu B'Shvat. So my question to my friend Rabbi Meir Soloveichik, is Tu B'Shvat an environmental holiday?
Tu B'Shvat is not a celebration of the environment. It's not meant to be in criticism of those who care about the environment. And it's not actually what it is usually called, the Chag HaIlanot or Chag HaIlanot, the Festival of Trees. Understanding what Tu B'Shvat is as a holiday begins in the understanding that Tu B'Shvat was originally never a holiday. It was a fiscal cutoff date. In the land of Israel, according to the Bible, the crops that are grown in the land of Israel have to be tithed. Visualize a biblical farmer. He has a crop that grows. He has to take off from that crop a certain amount, which he gives to the Cohen, to the priest. Then he takes off 10% and he gives that to the Levite. That's my people. That's really the most important and unappreciated commandment in the Torah.
Sitting here with someone whose last name is Cohen.
Yeah, okay, well, we can relitigate which is the most important. But you take 10%, another 10% on certain years are brought to Jerusalem and eaten there by the farmer. On other years, they're given to the poor. It's what's called Maaser Ani, tithes for the poor. You're not allowed to just gather all your crops together and take off 10%. You have to take off 10% for each tithe, for the Levite and for the poor, from each year's crop. Now, how do you define a year? When something grows within a specific date, when something is picked within a specific date. So it depends what sort of crop we're talking about. When it comes to fruit trees and to fruits of trees, there, the cutoff date is Tu B'Shvat, which means the 15th of Shvat. In other words, fruits that blossom after the 15th of Shvat are in one fiscal year for tithes. And all those fruits can be tithed together until those that bloom by the next 15th of Shvat. So it's a fiscal cutoff date. Just as you have to take taxes in America on all money that is earned between January 1 and January 1, you have to take tithes off fruits that are linked to 15 of Shvat through 15 of Shvat. That's what the Talmud means, the Mishnah and the Talmud means when it speaks of the new year of trees. And that's largely all it meant until around 400 or 500 years ago, really beginning probably with the mystics of Safed, of Tzvat, where Tu B'Shvat really begins to become a holiday.
So what's wrong with trying to infuse new meaning into these holidays, trying to make them more culturally or politically or morally relevant to our generation's moment? What's the problem?
Focusing on trees in general, or the environment in general in the context of Tu B'Shvat, causes us to miss out on the magnificence of what Tu B'Shvat was when it became a holiday. And what does Tu B'Shvat become if it was originally just a fiscal cutoff date? Since the laws of tithes only applies really to agriculture and fruits that are grown in the Holy Land, what Tu B'Shvat becomes is a celebration of the Holy Land, a celebration of the fruits of the Holy Land. And as it becomes something that's marked all over the world, it becomes a way of Jews who live thousands of miles away from the land of Israel to reconnect with the land of their ancestors. When I was a young boy growing up in Chicago on Tu B'Shvat, they would bring into the Hasidic Cheder in which I was studying Buxer. Buxer is the Yiddish word for carob. And the children would be told to eat it in honor of Tu B'Shvat. They would all break their teeth on this absolutely disgusting piece of dried fruit and endanger their lives and enrich their dentists for the next 10 years. Now, why are they eating this and where did this come from? Buxer was eaten by Ashkenazic Jews because it was the only fruit that could come from the land of Israel that would last the trip, which they could then ingest in Eastern Europe. If you think about a Jew in Eastern Europe marking Tu B'Shvat, what he's essentially doing is that he's willing to even eat the inedible in order to taste of the fruit of the Holy Land.
It sounds like this holiday isn't a universal celebration of
No.
nature. In a way, it's the opposite.
Not
It's a
at all.
holiday about Zionist longing.
It's a holiday of longing for the Holy Land. You can call it proto-Zionist if you wish. But not that celebrating God's hand in nature is bad. And in a certain sense, we have a day to mark the glories of creation of nature. That's called Shabbat. I mean, that's what Shabbat is. It's a celebration in part of God's creation of heaven and earth. And we have a once-a-year holiday that marks God as creator and the world and the glories of God's creation. That's Rosh Hashanah. That's where we mark the creation of the world. That's just not what Tu B'Shvat was. Tu B'Shvat is actually a particularistic day. Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik actually noted in the context of trees that the Bible, in the verse that actually does command the preservation of trees, where the Bible says that when you're warring against a city, you shouldn't wantonly cut down a fruit tree, the Bible says, Ki ha'adam eitz hasadeh, which could be translated as man is akin to a tree in the field. And what Rabbi Soloveitchik said is that if we compare man to a tree, it's because human beings have roots, and human beings are defined by their roots. There's an amazing discussion in the Talmud, the Mishnah and the Talmud, about, which sounds didactic, but is actually quite profound. Remember, we said that the laws of tithes only apply to fruit of the Holy Land. So the Talmud says, well, suppose you have a tree that's growing on the border. So the roots of the tree are in the Holy Land, but the fruits are growing in the airspace and are being picked right over the border, outside the Holy Land. Are these Holy Land fruits or not? And the Talmud says, you always follow the roots. So it ends up being a profound meditation on the nature of identity. And that's what Tu B'Shvat reveals. It reveals the roots of the Jewish people, and the fact that Jews, no matter how dispersed they were, remain rooted to the land of Israel. And of course, to call it proto-Zionist, I think, is profound, because Tu B'Shvat becomes part of the story of how the Jews kept the Holy Land alive in their minds and hearts, setting the stage for the Jewish return. And so then when we turn Tu B'Shvat into a larger celebration of nature, and there's much to celebrate about God's creation of nature, as long as we resist it devolving into a secular or even a pagan celebration of nature. As long as we celebrate God's hand in nature, there's a role for that, but Tu B'Shvat is not meant to be that. What Tu B'Shvat is a reflection of God's promise about the Jewish link to the land of Israel. We live in a time where the fruits of the land of Israel are just absolutely extraordinary. You know, a relative of mine, Rabbi Meir Bar Ilan, for whom Bar Ilan University is named, who was the son of the Nitziv, Rabbi Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, has a story of the Nitziv who was living in Volozhin in Poland, Lithuania, and they bring him wine from the first vineyard that had been planted in the end of the 19th century in the land of Israel, and he rejoiced at what a merit it was to taste of wine from the land of Israel. Now, compared to what we had today, I'm betting that wine was pretty gross. For him, it was an extraordinary gift. Just think of what we have today, and focusing on that genuine miracle of a desert that has become an Eden in the land of Israel. That really is what Tu B'Shvat should be all about.
So are you going to make your kids break their teeth on this fruit? Or do you have a more inspired way?
Tradition is tradition.
To celebrate Tu B'Shvat.
But I myself may have many cups of Israeli wine. As a lover of the land of Israel, this is a sacrifice I am prepared to make.
Well, Rabbi Soloveichik, happy Tu B'Shvat.
Happy Tu B'Shvat to you as well, Eric.